What's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. So glad to have y'all in today. It's July 18th. We're inching our way closer to football season. I am super excited. I know you guys are as well. We finally have some juicy fantasy football news. DeAndre Hopkins going over to the Titans. If you ask me, a little bit anticlimactic considering, he could have gone somewhere where he was on a way better overall offense. But hey, it's still a big-time football move. It's exciting to see football moves happening again as we inch our way closer to the season. So without any further ado, guys, I'm going to list you these players that I have here that are my league-winning sleeper running backs. Now, obviously, they got to fit both categories, right? They have to be league winners. They have to have actual league-winning upside, and they have to be sleepers, guys that are being taken way late in drafts and sometimes even going undrafted. So I'm going to make sure that you guys hit on these picks because they are tremendously important, and these are the real difference makers in fantasy because you can get elite value with some of your very last picks in the draft. So I'm going to start right here with the first player on my list, Chase Brown. Now, Chase Brown, last year, over 1,600 rushing yards, 240 receiving yards on 27 receptions. This dude was a lot more involved in the passing game than he had ever been in his entire running back career in college. He absolutely balled out as far as, overall rushing yards with over 1,600 rushing yards. We know that this dude has great speed. Great speed creates big playability, runs a 4.43 40 time. This is very impressive. Now, I think that a lot of people think that, since Joe Mixon came out and, he just gets this contract just a few days ago. Joe Mixon signed a pretty good-sized contract with the Bengals. They're going to be using him as their starting running back this season. But to me, this is a good thing for Chase Brown because ultimately what it means is it's extremely unlikely that the Bengals bring in somebody like Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Zeke Elliott, who would be a lot more of a threat to Chase Brown because, to me, Joe Mixon is absolutely washed up. The dude's over 1,300 career carries. They paid him to be the starting running back to start the year, but if the season progressed and Chase Brown started to get more and more volume and even started to cut into Joe Mixon's volume significantly, I wouldn't be surprised. And we know that considering the fact that this is going to be one of the higher scoring offenses in the league, it's going to give Chase Brown some touchdown upside. And if Mixon is as inefficient as he was last season, only averaging 3.9 yards per carry, Chase Brown's going to take over the backfield later in the season. It's going to happen. I mean, obviously, they're paying Mixon a lot of money, but if this team is competing for a Super Bowl like they have the last two seasons, they've been, a team that's gone very deep in the playoffs 2 years in a row. If they're having another great season and they're trying to get that number one seed to get a bye week or something like that, if Chase Brown is running the ball for a lot better yards per carry efficiency than Joe Mixon, they are going to replace Joe Mixon this season with Chase Brown as the season progresses. I don't necessarily think that it's likely, but I think there's at least a 35 to 40% chance that Chase Brown ends up taking over this backfield and being the main running back for this team as the season goes along. And you could get this guy in the second to last round of underdog drafts right now. He's going extremely late. So considering the cost of entry and the potential upside, Chase Brown is a massive potential league winner this season. He's a massive sleeper. There's a lot of drafts where he's not going until the very last round. There's almost no risk in picking him because you can get him so late in drafts, and he gives you legitimate league-winning upside. Next player on my list is going to be Elijah Mitchell. Now, if you look at Elijah Mitchell last season, he obviously missed a significant amount of time. I mean, he was out almost the entire season. But in the sample that we did get with Elijah Mitchell, this dude was averaging 6.2 yards per carry. The yards per carry efficiency was elite for Elijah Mitchell. And, when you look at the Vegas projections for rushing yards, they're only projecting Christian McCaffrey to be right around 865 rushing yards, whereas they're projecting Elijah Mitchell to be around 575 rushing yards. So they're only seeing a 290 rushing yard discrepancy between Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. So this tells me that the 49ers are going to use Elijah Mitchell quite a bit this year in the rushing game, and it's going to be a lot more of a split backfield as far as the rushing opportunity share that I think a lot of people think. Now, obviously, Christian McCaffrey has that freakish, crazy pass-catching upside where he can legitimately average 8 or 9 targets out of the backfield over the course of an entire season. So that's why he's projected to be the running back one in fantasy, and that's why he's number one in my rankings. But when it comes to just the rushing alone, Elijah Mitchell has an outside shot to actually rush for more yards than Christian McCaffrey. It's within the range of outcomes this season. And we know that this team has a ton of scoring upside. So considering the fact that Elijah Mitchell is actually a pretty good goal line presence, he had 13 red zone touches in just 7 games last year. That's 2 touches per game within the red zone. Extrapolate that over an entire season, and he's getting quite a bit of goal line scoring opportunities. This is a dude who is going to give you touchdown upside, along with elite yards per carry efficiency, playing in a very overall efficient offense that can provide him just tons of scoring upside. I love Elijah Mitchell this season. I think that if you're not able to get Christian McCaffrey in round 1, or you don't want to invest the draft capital in Christian McCaffrey in round 1, you could just wait and get Elijah Mitchell. He's obviously not going to give you the same PPR pass catching upside, but he's going to give you very high touchdown upside. And most importantly, he has a chance to potentially get even more rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey. The scenario where that happens does exist. So Elijah Mitchell is an elite sleeper with league-winning upside at the running back position. Next and final player on my list is going to be Gus Edwards. Now, I first want to point out that Gus Edwards has averaged over 5.2 yards per carry in his career. This is absolutely freakish yards per carry efficiency. Him and J.K. Dobbins, both Ravens running backs, are incredibly efficient running backs. And a large reason for this is not only are they both very talented, but they have one of the biggest running threats in their backfield playing quarterback for them. And we know that running backs that have mobile quarterbacks that are a threat to run the ball always have better yards per carry efficiency, because defenders can't cue in on just the running back, because they know there's just as high of a likelihood that Lamar Jackson is going to take off. And you look at this season, the opportunity share for these running backs should go up. I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to have to run the ball a little bit less. They've already said they're going to call less design runs. He's still going to get a healthy share of those design runs, but there's going to be less of them, meaning more carries for the running backs. And we know that J.K. Dobbins is extremely injury prone. If he goes down and Gus Edwards gets to take over this backfield, he then has absolutely massive league-winning upside. And, obviously there's been some talks over the offseason with J.K. Dobbins not being satisfied with his contract. We were hearing a lot about that a month ago. Haven't heard that much about it since, but, is J.K. Dobbins really happy with his contract situation? We really don't know right now. So, there are multiple red flags with J.K. Dobbins. So while he has elite league-winning upside himself, you can get Gus Edwards way later. And, it could come to a point this season where Gus Edwards ends up being the back for this team, because either J.K. Dobbins, the contract situation becomes a problem, or he could easily get injured, because we know that J.K. Dobbins is extremely injury prone. So if that does happen, Gus Edwards comes in and is immediately a mid to low end running back 1. And so considering the fact that you get him in the second to last round or even the very last round of underdog drafts, the value for this dude is massive. He is a sleeper with league winning upside. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning into the video. Catch you later.